Well, hi there folks, it's Matt Hayson here looking at this week's property market. Well, if you're living in Sydney, you know we've had our fair share of rain over the last several weeks. Now that culminated in a really dynamic weather event on Tuesday, which brought widespread destruction to a number of Sydney's suburbs. In fact, I don't think there's many properties which haven't sprung up a leak or experienced some level of damp or even mold as a result of the high level of humidity we've been experiencing across the city. That said, it hasn't stopped a lot of people bringing their home onto the market for auction, that's for sure. Last week, 1,175 properties were due to go under the hammer for an overall clearance rate sitting at 54.3%. Now that's a pretty weak clearance rate and a reflection that we're moving out of that boom time type market into more balanced trading conditions. That said, CoreLogic, who are reported in the Australian Financial Review, Domain and Sydney Morning Herald, they reported an auction clearance rate sitting at 74.6%. Now this represents a 27% differential between CoreLogic and SQM research data, and that paints a very different picture of the overall strength of the market. For example, when we're seeing a clearance rate sitting at near 75%, that would suggest to us that this is a market firmly in favour of sellers and there's probably some upward pressure and competition on prices. Conversely, when we see a clearance rate sub 60%, which is what's being reported by SQM research, that would suggest to us the market is far more balanced between buyers and sellers, and even in some cases there's some downward pressure on prices. In our view though, SQM research auction data is far more accurate and a true representation of what's actually unfolding in the market, whereas CoreLogic's data, in our view, is a misrepresentation of the market and is actually just poor data and poor reporting. Now the irony of all of this is CoreLogic's data for the auction clearance rate suggesting it was near 75%. They're also cited in the Australian Financial Review during the week suggesting that property prices in the inner city suburbs of Sydney were actually experiencing sharp price declines. Now I'm going to look at their graph here and pick up Birchgrove. Now Birchgrove is very much in our core market, so I feel like we can speak about it with a high level of authority. According to CoreLogic, they're suggesting that property prices in Birchgrove have declined by 6% over the last 3 months. Now Birchgrove isn't big suburbs, so it doesn't have a lot of transactions, so that can sometimes mess with the algorithm. But over the last several weeks, we've seen some incredibly strong sales in Birchgrove. Some are being at the highest level in the suburb's recorded history. So in our view, we're not seeing any way, shape or form, any price decline in Birchgrove, nor are we seeing any decline in buyer demand. So therefore we have these two metrics from CoreLogic which are widely reported in the media, and in our view, they're inaccurate and a misrepresentation of what we're actually seeing at ground level. Now another article that caught my attention during the week was this one in the Australian Financial Review suggesting that property prices will decline by 15%. And suggesting that the war between the Ukraine and Russia is going to bite on the economy. However, when you delve in and start reading the body copy, it's not that dramatic. It does reference a comment from AMP Shane Oliver suggesting that property prices will decline between 10 and 15%. Not just 15% according to the headline, but between 10 and 15%. But no time frame is provided in the article around when this will actually unfold. It also goes on to say that whenever there's been a crisis in Australia, the property market has bounced back quickly and also sharply. So there is this disconnect between the headline and also the veracity of the argument in the body copy. So what we'd really like to see moving forward is a little bit more responsibility on the part of journalists to match their headline with the body copy in the article, and also a lot more accountability from the big media houses when they're using a lot of this reference point for data which can quite often be inaccurate. Now the more honesty and transparency that we do have in reporting, that's going to better serve the community and those that are looking to make a well-informed buying and selling decision. And that leads us into this weekend, folks. We've got some great properties coming onto the market. As I mentioned, there's a lot of property coming up, which is a great time if you're a buyer with a wide selection. In our view, the market is very balanced between buyers and sellers. There's some wonderful buying opportunities, and we look forward to seeing you out and about. Thanks for watching. Catch you all next week.